No, I'm sitting here without any script, first of all.
I like that.
That's the whole idea of our podcast. No script.
Yeah,
Just go with the flow, natural conversation.
beautiful.
Well, thank you for coming, Rob.
For sure.
I'm really excited for this one. You have a story that's really impressive, and I know a lot of people are encouraged by your story and the work you do. First of all, please, people who doesn't know about you, what do you do, and explain about yourself, please.
Yeah, so I play music, but most people when they play music, like that was their goal their whole life. Like, oh, I want to be a musician since I was 5 years old, and we have a very musical family. But I never thought I'd do that for a living. I like playing sports. That was my thing. So as you saw, I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'5".
Mm-hmm.
So I played lots of sports and stuff. And yeah, that's how I made my friends and stuff. And I played a little bit of music. I started playing drums a little bit when I was a kid, and then a little bit of guitar. But yeah, that was. I tried out for the school band, and that was my worst mark in school was music.
Okay.
I tried out for the choir, and I didn't make it because my voice wasn't good enough.
Mhm.
But I loved music. It always spoke to me. Like music can calm you down, and it can get you excited. Like music affects you. So, but yeah, when I was 17 years old, though, I was in a big car accident where me and my friends were going way too fast down an icy road, and we pulled out to pass a full NASCAR before going back to our school. And then we pulled out to pass a car, and there was a semi-truck coming that had just crossed the border from the States. And yeah, my friend slammed on the brakes, and we slid, and we hit the semi head on, and our car spun, and my friends told me that like the trailer like ripped the trunk off the car. So I fell back where the trunk used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And none of my friends were hurt, which is a miracle. And then, but they looked back and they saw that I was laying there not responding. And there was a guy that I met just a few years ago. And just before my accident, a few weeks before, he had just taken a first responders course. Like if you ever come
Oh
across
my God.
something,
Okay.
then he would know what to do.
Mm.
And he happened to be the first guy that drove by. He said, and so I met with him a few years ago, and he said, he told me, because I don't remember the accident or anything or being in the hospital because of the head injury that
Everything
I had.
is fainted. Yeah.
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 So a
It
lot
was
of
so, the accident was so brutal that you just can't survive to learn what happened. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
yeah, and he came. So a lot of people told me pieces of my story. So he told me, when I met with him, pieces of my story I didn't know. He said he came running up, and I was laying there, and he checked, and he said you had no pulse, you weren't breathing. And you can have your arm cut or your leg cut, but if your heart's not pumping, then the blood doesn't come out.
It doesn't move. Yeah.
It's not moving, right? And so he said he started pumping to get and he said he knew my heart started beating when blood started pouring out of my head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when he saw like I crushed this part of my skull. And he said I met with him and his wife, and I stayed in contact with his wife, and but he said he was trying to hold that skull together while they were waiting for the ambulance, hoping that I wasn't going to bleed out.
Okay.
Right. And so the ambulance came and picked me up, and parents get the call that no one ever wants to get, and they were like, we're so sorry your son was in a bad car accident. It doesn't look good. So they got me to the hospital, and they said his heart's beating. So they said we'll put his head back together with titanium. And so yeah, they did that surgery, and then they didn't know if I'd ever wake up, and if I'd ever walk or talk again. And one day I woke up, but because of the head injury, when I woke up, I didn't know who I was or my parents or anything. So I sometimes think about what my family went through. Like my parents, they're first they think their son might not make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I wake up, I looked at my mom and said, like, she said, she was talking to me, and I looked at her and said, "You're not my mom." Like she said,
because you can't remember her at all.
I didn't remember it, right? And yeah, you learn a lot about your brain when you go through a big head injury like that. And what happens is you have short-term memory, so that's the last couple of days, and then you have long-term memory, so that's the last months and years in your childhood.
Some new events, or not new, but some special events, could be marriage or something like that. Right?
Sure. And so short-term memory. So we're doing this podcast right now, but if you went on your way home today, you had a big accident, you got hit on the head, you wouldn't probably remember us talking today because that would be erased because it's the last few days. It takes a couple of days for it to go from your short-term to your long-term memory, right? So So I don't remember being in a car. I don't remember that accident. I don't remember the last couple days before. So, and then, yeah, so now I'm in a hospital, and every time I'd wake up and I'm in pain, and apparently I was asking, like, what happened? You know, like, why am I in so much pain?
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, my shoulder was dislocated. So I've had many surgeries here. I'm waiting for another surgery on my lower back coming up. But yeah, and then I went from a guy that's 6'5" that played sports, and now here I was 17 years old, and my mom was bathing me again.
Yeah.
And people, you know, they say a lot of things to you trying to comfort you. And some people said, oh, you know, it's fate. Like, everybody, you can't control what happens. And I didn't like that because that means you have no control. Whatever happens to you today, like, we have no say. And that didn't make sense to me because like, we get to make choices. Like,
At least you could have done something
yeah.
different.
In fact, you know what I found out? My best friend who was sitting in the back seat with me, something in his heart told him. He told me, Rob, I don't think we should go. Apparently, like, he didn't want to get into the car. He's icy roads. My friend just got his driver's. He's like, I don't. And apparently, I convinced him to get into the car. That's what he told me. So something told him something was off, right?
I can feel. Yeah.
So we made some choices. Some people in my family told me that God spanked me with a semi because I was a bad kid. That didn't make me help at all. Now I'm like, this is how life is. You know, if you screw up and make mistakes, God hits you with a semi truck, right? But the most common thing people would always say is that everything happens for a reason. And people say that with great intentions. And some people I've met, they have that tattooed on their body. Everything happens for a reason, right? But since my accident, I've met with tons of people in prison and hospitals and funerals. And even though people mean well when they say that, I think it does way more damage than good. Because, like, people said everything happens for a reason. Now I had to lay there and figure out what's the reason I was hit by a semi. Like, there's a big reason for it. And I'm like, so I'm thinking, is it because I'm a bad person? Is this a punishment? Is this God? Like, so that actually made things way worse. So for 2 years, I was suicidal. I didn't want to be alive. None of my friends knew, none of my family knew. Like, I was the life of the party, you know, like, so, which is the case for a lot of people that are suicidal, you know, nobody knows, right?
Yeah. Rob, I saw your documentary as well.
Yeah.
And you said something in the documentary that when you was hospitalized, right? And you started to hate your family members for some reason. Maybe you weren't liking the position you were in at the moment, and nobody could help you better, right? You wasn't able to help yourself better, and you were just, going through that healing process after the accident. And you didn't like the people around yourself, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I hated my family, but definitely when I started going down the music path and everything like that, a lot of them were pretty judgmental because I come from a very conservative family, grew up in church, and so all the tattoos and playing rock music.
Sometimes they don't like what we
Yeah.
do and what we like.
Yeah. So my brother is in the documentary, and he was pretty honest. He told me if I ever get a piercing, he would rip it out of my face, and he told me how bad I was and stuff. So it was like, I didn't hate them, but I think it caused a separation.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean?
I can understand better
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Because I thought I was, trying to do something good with it. But, so I was in this really dark place for 2 years, and then also they kept giving me medication for all the pain that I was in, and then you get used to it and the pain gets worse, and then they just keep giving me more pills and more pills. So I was dealing with that as well. But then, for 2 years I was suicidal, thinking everything happens for a reason. What's the reason? And then somebody came up to me and said the most amazing thing that changed my life. And he said, Rob, you're trying to figure out the reason you were hit by a semi, right? I was like, yeah. He goes, I know the reason. I was like, what is it? He goes, I think the reason you were hit by a semi is because you were going too fast on an icy road. Like,
that's the most simplest explanation.
Simple, but it set me free. And I realized, okay, yeah, hey, it's not fate. We get to make decisions. Sometimes we go too fast on an icy road, and I thought, okay, I didn't have to be mad at anyone or anything. And then I started looking at life differently, and I thought, well, not a lot of people get a second chance. I don't know why I got a second chance. Like, I didn't deserve it. I had done nothing good with my life that I deserved it. But I thought not a lot of people get a second chance. Like, I still, when I lose a friend or family member, I sang at my cousin's funeral, and I was like, that stuff hurts me because I'm like, why did I get a second chance? Why not him? Why did my heart start beating again? Like, why not theirs, you know? But I thought, I got a second chance. Maybe I should do something with this second chance. And I thought, oh, maybe there's other people that are struggling out there and I should tell my story. So I thought music would be a good way to tell a story. So started playing in a band and, you know, we did started writing songs. We did our first show. And I'm like, we're going to change the world. And there was 4 people in the audience. And I was like, where's the big crowd? I want to change the world, you know.
Yeah, but you want to tell my story.
No. Now I listen to my first album and I'm okay with there was only 4 people there because we weren't very good. we had to get a little better.
Okay.
But even before starting the band, when I was like, I want to do something that matters. Like I was like, I just screamed at the sky, like I want to do something that matters. I want my life to count. And you ever get a prompting? Like my friend got a prompting, we shouldn't get in this car. Or sometimes you feel in your heart there's something you're supposed to do or something you're supposed to say, right? I was like, I want to do something that matters with my life. And I'm like, I'll listen to whatever prompting I get. So I was ready for anything. And I thought I'd hear a prompting to like move to another country somewhere and work in a village, you know. And I was ready. I would do whatever I felt.
And this is after the accident?
Yeah. After that 2 years when somebody said, hey, you got hit by a semi because you were going too fast on an icy road. We're all going to have bad days. What are you going to do with it, you know? And so I was ready for any prompting. And I didn't hear some prompting to move to another country. This is what I felt. It was to phone the semi driver that hit me and tell him I was okay. I was like, what? So it's kind of funny. I didn't know where to start. Like, how would I find this guy? So I phoned the police. I said, hey, can I get the phone number of the semi driver that ran me over? And the police are like, no.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what I wanted with
Exactly.
that number,
Yeah,
right?
you could have gone, beat him or something like that.
Yeah. But so I'm like, okay, I tried, but this prompting wouldn't leave me. And so I kept trying. And finally I told this one cop, I'm like, I think this guy needs to know that I'm okay. Like, this isn't leaving my heart. So finally this one cop goes, here's his number. He goes, you didn't get this from me, but here. So I called, and this big trucker from the U.S. answers the phone. I was like, hey, is it so-and-so? And he goes, yeah. I said, I just felt that I should call you and tell you. Like, I was.
And how, it was after 2 years?
A couple of years, yeah.
Ah, okay.
So I was, yeah. And I thought I just wanted to, remember that accident up in Canada? He goes, yeah. I said, I just felt that I should call you, tell you, like, I'm okay. Like, I'm alive. I survived. And he just said, I'm just so sorry about your friend. I said, what friend? He goes, the guy that died and crushed his skull. I'm like, no, that's me. And we talked, and I could tell what that did for him, that phone call.
He must have felt so light.
Yeah, but it's not so much, that story isn't about so much what it did for him, but it's what about it did for me. So I hung up the phone, and I was like, wow, that felt good. Like, till that day, I'd never done anything for anyone but me. And I was like, that felt good. I want more of that. And I was like, and I didn't have to move somewhere. I just had to phone somebody.
Makes sense.
Like, we make life way too difficult. Like, to do simple things, listen to those promptings. So I was like, that's when I was like, man, I want other people to feel that. And I was like, I want to feel that more. And that's when I was like, how do I tell my story? And I started a band. So.
And then how come you got in touch with the kids or the youngsters who weren't feeling, I would say, good in this life, and they were, trying to take those scary steps to end their life at some point?
Yeah, so we started the band, we did 3 albums, we were touring, it was growing, we were getting a lot better at what we were doing, and we got a record deal on our 4th album. And if you watched the documentary, you saw some of that. And then all of a sudden we had songs on the radio, and all of a sudden we had songs in the top 40, and then we had a couple top 10 hits. Like, so now you turn on the radio and you hear a song and you're like, oh, cool. Like, this is, and we were playing at big shows. We're playing with big bands. We're playing to 10,000 people, to 20,000 people. It was like big crowds, and it was fun. And I'd say a little bit between songs, but it wasn't like really getting to tell my story. It was just playing music, and I was waiting for a chance, but like, I thought that would give me a platform to say something.
And people will hear it.
Yeah. And then we were playing, I won't say which band we were with at the time, but I just remember we were doing a show with this great band out of Canada, and they just had a song that went #1 in the US for 7 weeks. And we were like, wow, that's everyone's dream.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I watched, they were like, well, if this happens, then this might happen. And if this happens, we could do this. And if I'm like, you guys made it. Like you should be enjoying this, right? Like, I was kind of like ticked. Like, what, are you not excited about what's happening? But at that show, like we were opening for them, like playing before them, right? And I remember looking into the audience and I saw 4 young guys wearing black and with piercings and tattoos. And I thought, oh, sometimes you can tell those guys are a band. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at the band we're opening for and saying, you made it. Why aren't you enjoying this?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them.
So just
they're probably thinking,
yeah, you were the coolest guy.
Why aren't you enjoying it? You made it. And I thought, if you don't stop and realize, like, enjoy the moment, right? But then we were starting to negotiate a deal in the U.S. and overseas and stuff. And then I thought, man, it took so long to get songs moving in Canada. And then I thought, now we're going to try to do this in the U.S. And I thought, man, to try to get to a top 10 song in the U.S., that's going to be a whole another thing to try. And the music business is really difficult. It's hard to make it, And so I was thinking, what do I do? Like, how do we make this work? And how do I use this and actually say something from stage?
Use your energy and what you were actually trying to express or say.
Exactly, yeah. And so then one day I was offered a 9-month tour, just me and my guitar, going through schools, telling my story. And I was like, yeah,
this is something.
And I thought, this would be awesome. This is it. But that 9-month tour was no pay, no money. And so my record label was like, we're here to make money, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to walk away from my record deal and my management deal. And I walked away and I'm like, how am I going to pay the bills? How do I feed my family? But I thought, no, this is something I want to do. So I started that 9-month tour and going to schools, telling my story. But, I actually never talked about the fact that I was suicidal. Because I thought, what would everyone think of me? What would the students think of me? What would the staff think of me?
You might get backlash or something.
Yeah, and they'd think I'm weak if I revealed that. So my whole message was just like, hey, I had this big car accident, so make every day count. You never know what could happen to you tomorrow. And I would tell different stories. But then after that 9 months, other schools started calling, hey, we heard you're really effective. Could you come to our school or to our community? And we started going to reserves, working with Indigenous people. And we started going to prisons and youth detention centers, talking with inmates. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But then one day I got a call.
Before that, sorry to interrupt you, how did you survive those 9 months then if you walked off the record deal? And how much was that deal for, if you don't mind sharing with us?
How much money was the deal? It was 9 months with no pay.
No, before the one you walked off.
Oh, so how a record deal works, there's so much money that gets put into publicity and pushing the album, like how to get a song to the top 10. And you have to keep performing and everybody else you can get a signing bonus so they're like, here's lots of money so you can go buy a nice house and get a nice car, but you owe all of that money back. So if you ever hear about bands that they get songs on the radio, but then they go bankrupt because all that money they give you in the front, that's just a loan. You have to pay all that back. So until your album sells a lot and you're making a lot's performing, all of that money is going to the people that produced the album, and you're living off of that loan that you were given, and then you have to pay that loan off. So I figured out
how it works.
Yeah, I read books about the music industry. So instead of saying, hey, give me, $200,000 at the beginning, I thought, I'm going to owe $200,000 at the end.
Yeah.
So I just asked for a few $1,000s a month, even while we were on the road. And you get your hotels paid for, but you pay all that back. So that
even that you have to pay back.
Everything. So people think, oh, you had a song in the top 10 in Canada, you must be rich. When I walked away from that record deal, I didn't have $1.
Because that was all company's money. And
even I had songs in the top 40 in Canada, a couple top 10 hits. And every quarter they send out a check to you for your song. This is how much you get for it playing on the radio.
Streamings
all that stuff. Radio especially. my biggest check was, I think, $415 for a quarter of a year. Like, it's, you got a record label that's paying for things, you owe that money. So yeah, some people think when you had us all on the radio, you're rich for life. I didn't have a dollar. So we refinanced our home, and I went on this tour and didn't have a dollar to my name, right?
So how did you survive for those 9 months then?
I wish I could tell you, brother. There was just thing after thing happened. People would say, like, somebody I'd never met before said, "Hey, I feel like I should give you this," and he gave me a check that paid for our mortgage payments for that month and some groceries, and we got deals on. I phoned one day and I was making all these calls with WestJet, and this woman's like, "I'd like to help you, and give you deals on this."
I get it now. Yeah. When you're doing something good, then doors open,
Good things happen.
for your good.
Right?
Yeah, makes sense.
But I didn't even have a charitable status, so people, if they want to donate, I couldn't even say, like, here's a receipt for donating.
Yeah.
So it really is miraculous. It was scary, like, how am I going to pay the bills? But after a while, I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen this month that's going to make this happen, and they did warn my family, they warned my parents and everything, like, Rob, because he went through a near-death experience, he's going to be a risk taker the rest of his life, and I definitely am now. So yeah, so we were going to schools, and then started growing. So I brought a guitarist back, and then it was 2 acoustic guitars, and then it was kept growing, and then so I got brought a drummer back, so now I was sitting on stools, 2 acoustic guitars and a drummer, and tell a story, play a song, tell a story, play a song, and then after 3 years about we got my charitable status. Some mentors of mine helped me get my charitable status, and now we could actually try to raise money, and it kept just going and going. But like I said, I never talked about the fact that I was suicidal till one day we got a call from a school in Ontario. They said, "We just lost a girl. She took her life." And on her suicide note, it revealed that she had a pact with her friend. They had a deal, like, friends, if you kill yourself, I'll kill myself.
Oh my God.
Which happens a lot, suicide pacts. So there'll be a group of 5, 10 people. But this one revealed on her note, the principal said, she has a pact with a friend. Her friend's going to kill herself. We have 1,000 students here. We don't know who the friend is. Can you come right away? So we don't charge anything for what we do. We never ask the schools for $1 or anything. So, but what do you do in a situation like that? Do you say, well, we'll come if you pay for our hotels?
No,
we'll come. So we went there, and I don't know, 1,000 students, maybe it was 600, I don't know, 700. But when there's a bunch of kids in front of you, man, I was looking, I thought, somebody sitting in front of me is about to kill themselves.
Makes sense. And they know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I don't know who it is.
Who is it? Yeah.
And I thought, I knew another prompting. I knew I had to say it for the first time that I was there once too. Like somebody.
So you felt that that's the right moment to tell this.
Oh man, my heart was just racing.
Because you always kept it hidden inside yourself, right?
I never said this to my family, my band. I'm on stage. I'm like, I'm about to say this. They're gonna be like, Rob, why didn't you ever say this to us? But that's how we are. We don't talk about our emotions, especially men, right? We suck it up, be a man, keep it inside, right? And but I got this part of the show, my heart's racing, and I thought, oh, I have to say it for the first time. And I was like, oh no. And I got to this point of the show, and I said, I know there's someone in this room that's thinking about taking their life. I said, you're not alone. I was there once too. And I was just bracing for impact. I thought the crowd would be shocked, or like, how are they gonna look at me? Like, I was scared, but it just felt like, that actually felt really good to say it for the first time. And then after the show, man, the conversations were so much deeper. It wasn't just, hey, can you sign a poster? Can I take a selfie? Now it was like deep conversation.
Yeah.
And then this girl walked up to me, and she pulls a note out of her pocket, and she goes, here. And I was like, do you want me to sign this? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
She goes, no, this is my suicide note.
And that was the same kid you're talking about, okay.
Principal and the counselor are standing beside me, and we found her. And she walked off with them to get the help that she needed. And I was like, whoa. And I was really confused because I looked at that note, She didn't write it while I was talking or while we were playing music.
Oh, it was written prior to that.
She was carrying that. It was old. It was folded up. And a little while ago, I talked with the police that do a lot of work with suicide prevention among teens. And they said, yeah, when we come on the scene of a suicide and there's a note, very rarely is it freshly written. People usually carry it with them for 2 or 3 months, waiting for somebody to push them over the edge or for somebody to reach out and say, you're not alone.
Yeah, maybe also I think sometimes they fail to do it to yourself. I mean ourselves, right? I mean, because I've seen a lot of people, heard a lot of stories where they have to take multiple chances to end their life more than once, and it doesn't happen like they thought yesterday and today. I mean, there are reasons they can do, and they can end their life right away with so many reasons, but more of these cases I've heard, more of these people, they take multiple chances, they take multiple tries.
Here's an interesting one for you: is way more females attempt to take their life. Way more men, like males, kill themselves. So way more females will try. They'll take pills and they'll do something and they'll do it somewhere where they think they'll be found. Whereas when a male decides to do it, it's they'll go somewhere where no one's going to find them. They'll use an extreme measure like a gun or something like that. So way more females attempt. These are just stats. This isn't my opinion. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are attempts, but some people just carrying their note, like, because if all of a sudden somebody pushed them over the edge, right? So then I thought, well, the next day there was another 1,000 students in front of me. And then I was thinking about the stats from Kids Help Phone. And I thought, well, if the stats are true from Kids Help Phone, this is before COVID, 1 in 5 teenagers in Canada had seriously considered suicide in the last year. 1 in 5. And I thought, wow. So I thought, if there's another 1,000 students in front of me, what if I said it again? So this is the next day, and I was like, it was a little easier the next day, and I thought, I got to this point in the show, and it was easier, and I said, I know there's someone in this room that's thinking about taking their life. I'm like, you're not alone. I was there once too. And then a young man came up to me, and he gave me his note. And that was the beginning.
Same school?
No.
Different one.
Different school. And I thought, wow, this is now a focus of mine. So I started saying that at every show. And that was the beginning of now, 979 notes have been handed to us. Here's some from the recent shows. That's 979 students sitting with notes.
Can I look at it if that's possible?
You can look at them. It's personal stuff. Like, I won't have you read them. I see.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and if there's anything on here that staff need or police need to hear, if somebody's going through something at home or something, we make sure to get them, to the right help. Let's say if they're being abused at home or something like that. And that's not including like how many students have gone home from our shows. They didn't have their note with them. So when they get home, they make a video on TikTok or on Instagram or YouTube of ripping up their note, and they tag me in the video. So like, we played one song now where for years we've done this one song where during the video I tell the story of that first girl, and while we play the song, like, our shows now, like, we put in big LED walls behind us so the music video is in sync while we're playing. The lyrics are being written while I'm singing them so the kids know what I'm singing. Mm-hmm. But we have one song where the whole video is just kids from
it's all about
TikTok videos and YouTube videos and Instagram of kids ripping up their notes, and then kids go, wow, I want to rip up my note. Because I think, and I appreciate doing this podcast with you, because I think that's one thing that upsets me about media, all we do is talk about tragedy, and like, we can learn from tragedy, but kids need to hear that not every story of mental illness ends in a suicide. They need to see that not every story of addiction ends with an overdose, right? So our show now, and like, we were going from September to June doing 150 shows. It just kept growing and growing and growing. You watched the documentary. I almost burned out because I was just we couldn't say no. We just kept going and going. And man, sharing my story and sharing other people's stories and then hearing their stories, like emotionally, that was draining me, right? And finally, we're like, well, we can't stop what we're doing, but we couldn't keep going at that pace. So we thought, what if we did bigger shows and we brought the students together so we could reach more schools at one day, right? So I asked my team to start calling schools and, hey, you want a show again next year? Yeah. Would you be willing to come to another venue? Oh, we'd love to, but we can't afford it. And we'd say, what do you mean? Well, it's free. We're not charging you anything. And the schools said, yeah, we can't afford the school buses. So I looked at my team. I'm like, if they can't even afford the school buses, we have to pay for the school bus.
Yeah.
So our fundraising team, because there's not enough, schools don't get enough financial support for mental health. So we'll just figure it out. So now, for the last few years, we do shows now where, in this last few months, we did shows in Moose Jaw. We did 3 shows in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, a couple shows. We were in Calgary. We were in BC, in Vancouver. We were in Surrey. We were in
all over.
We went up to Nunavut to plan a show that we're coming up this fall, and we do these shows and we bring schools together. And now, so our shows we did a few months ago here in Winnipeg, we rented the Centennial Concert Hall. And in 2 days, we had 35 schools come. So that would have taken 35 days before.
Yeah.
But now we can reach way more people, and we can put on a bigger show for the kids because it's a big stage and all that stuff. And because it's tough to entertain young people, people in general. We're all like this. We want everything
so easy,
10
right?
seconds, right?
Yeah.
So we have to have a lot of light show. We do, like I said, all the videos and stuff. We have them laughing more than crying. And now I tell my story, and then we play a song. And then I tell a story of a girl, because we do shows in prisons and stuff. So I tell the story of this girl that we met in lockdown, and she tells her story. We did a show in this lockdown facility, and she told me that she was laying down on the train tracks in Calgary. She thought she had nothing to offer this world, and I looked at her and I said, the world needs you. Someone just I was like, are you glad I'm still here? She goes, yeah. I said, somebody's going to say the same thing to you one day. You got to keep walking. And I said, have you found a way to channel your story? Don't keep it inside. I'm like, do you like poetry or journaling or music or dance or painting? And she goes, I love music. In fact, I write music. I said, really? She goes, I said, can you play me a song that you've written? So she started playing a song that she wrote. It's beautiful. And so we were recording it with our phone. She didn't know it. So we left there and we actually produced all the music underneath it.
Okay.
And we found out from the staff how much the show impacted her. She was still in lockdown. So we went back a few months later and we set up a studio right there in lockdown. And we recorded the song that she wrote with all the backing tracks. And she listened to it and she was just so rocked by it. We're showing, see how gifted you are? And she was so excited to hear her song produced. And then we found out when she was released, she asked if she could stay and help teach and mentor the younger girls that were still in lockdown. So I tell her story on stage, what I just told you. And I tell all the people in the audience, do you want to meet her? And then she walks out and we sing a song together. And so it's and then I tell a story of a kid that we met. We were on a reserve in northern Saskatchewan, way up north, Indigenous kid, same thing. I was like, are you glad I'm still here? He goes, yeah. And this kid, he didn't have a suicide note. He had a book. He had written 100 pages of things that he hated about himself. And same thing, are you glad I'm still here? Yeah. Find a way to channel your story. Do you like painting or dancing or music? He goes, I love music. I said, if you could play any instrument, what would you play? He goes, guitar. I said, then play guitar, kid. He goes, and he shows me he was born with just an elbow and 5 fingers on this arm, right? I was like, no excuses, play. And 2 years later, he sends us a message. Sends a video and says, hey, thanks for pushing me. Here's me playing guitar. And he learned how to play guitar with his elbow. You saw it in the documentary, right?
Yeah.
And this kid's better than me. And so I tell his story, and then he walks out and performs with us, and he sings. And so it's showing kids victories, and I think a lot of times as we've grown this tour, you know, sometimes schools are nervous, like, okay, we're going to talk about mental health. Like teachers and counselors and principals are nervous because there's some bad presentations out there. And if you just talk about depression for an hour and a half, everybody's just going to walk out of there depressed.
Makes
right?
sense, yeah.
But we put on a concert. We show like that. I think, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart, I think we're losing some of the most gifted people. Like I was just at the airport, and this girl runs up to me, and I was about to get on my plane, and she runs up and she goes, "You're Robb Nash." She goes, "Your music means so much to me because I was diagnosed with depression. I have suicidal thoughts." I had 2 minutes, and I was like, so you're like me." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "You hurt deeply, but you love deeply, don't you?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "You hurt deeply, but you can see when others are hurting, can't you?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, you have what I have, and it sucks sometimes, but you can help a lot of people with that." I said, "Isn't it interesting that you and I get diagnosed with depression, which is very real? Nobody gets diagnosed with empathy, right? Empathy, you can feel the pain of the people.
Yeah.
And that's what I think artists, like after talking with hundreds of thousands of teenagers, I think there's a strange connection between the arts and mental illness.
There is, I can tell.
Yeah, like musicians, artists, I always thought I was cursed growing up because my friends would go through a tough day and they just seemed like it didn't affect them. I would go through a tough day and I would get to my room and I'd be crying and I'd be like, why am I cursed with all this emotion?
Yeah.
Until I realized I was a songwriter. That extra emotion wasn't for me. I was supposed to pour it into a song.
Yeah.
And I found that outlet, right? Yeah, I'll tell you an incredible story. This is a true story. 8-year-old girl was called into the principal's office, and her parents were sitting there. And she goes, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble again." The principal says, "We're kicking your daughter out of school.
Mm-hmm.
She can't sit still. She can't focus. She can't think straight. She distracts all the kids." To give you examples of how useless your daughter is, here comes every teacher. So every teacher came in the room, and this girl, who's an adult now, she said, I was sitting on my hands. I didn't want to be the girl they were describing. And they all came in, and she had to listen at 8 years old to why they were kicking her out. The last teacher came in the room, and they said to the parents, "Can I talk to you in the hallway?" And they're like, "Sure." So as they're walking out, they left the girl in the room. As they're walking out, the teacher turned the radio on, turned the music on, and closed the door, and they're standing in the hallway. And the parents are like, "What did you want to tell us?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Nothing. I want to show you something." Look back into that room. And they looked into the room, and because she turned the music on, the radio, this little girl had already gotten up and she was dancing around the room. Teacher said, "There is nothing wrong with your daughter. She's a dancer. She needs to be moving to think."
Yeah.
Put her in dance class.
You're suppressing her emotions.
Yeah, let her channel it. Put her in dance class. So they put her in dance class. Long story short, she goes on to the Royal Ballet. She meets Andrew Lloyd Webber. She writes all the choreography for the musical called Cats.
Mm-hmm.
Then she wrote all the choreography for the musical, probably the biggest one in the world, Phantom of the Opera. And now she's a multimillionaire with dance colleges all over the world for kids just like her because one person looked at her and said, "You're not cursed, you're gifted."
Yeah.
That's what we try to do. Like I did a show for all the addictions foundations in Alberta. And I actually think the place that you think you're cursed is probably your gift. So artists, we're emotional. And it feels like a curse, but it's actually a gift.
Yes.
There's so many musicians. I don't know how well you know rock music, but like in the world I live in, there's been so many people that have taken their lives, right? And so I'm in front of all these addictions foundations. So everybody's struggling with alcohol and drug addiction in Alberta. We did a big show for them. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, the place you think you're cursed is your gift. And I looked at them and I said, "Guys, I'm not here because I feel sorry for you. You think you're cursed because you can't quit." I'm like, that's not a curse, that's a gift. We're just, like, I'm an addict. When I got a hold of drugs, I was all in and I was dedicated. Like, I don't quit. Your friends, you think you're cursed because your friends can party on the weekend? They can shut her off and go back to school or go back to work. Addicts, we're still going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And you think, why can't I stop? Like, that's not a curse, that's a gift. Because, well, like, when I addicts when you do drugs, or you don't quit, right? You're dedicated to whatever you do. And guess what? When I picked up a guitar and I started a band, most people quit when they're 23, right? I don't quit. I'm an addict. Like, whatever, I looked at all these addicts, whatever we do, we're all in. That's not a curse, that's a gift. You point that at the right thing, you'll excel at whatever you want.
Yeah.
Point it at the wrong thing, it'll destroy your life. And all these addicts are coming up afterwards, they're like, you just
You're
described
so right.
me.
Yeah, you so
I'm
right.
an all-in person, you know? Like, this one guy walked up to me, and he, after a show, and he goes, okay, I'm bipolar, which is a mental health struggle, right? I'm like, okay. He goes, I have autism. I'm like, okay. He goes, I was addicted to crack and cocaine. I'm like, okay, you're telling me I'm not cursed, that I'm gifted? I'm like, look, you must have struggles. I'm not discounting the fact that your life has been incredibly hard. I said, but you're bipolar, so the emotions you feel are massive. So it's got to be tough sometimes. But the way you could express your emotions must be incredible. He goes, yeah. I said, you have Asperger's or autism. I said, so you're hyper-focused on whatever you do. I said, so that's whatever you do, you're super focused on it. And you're an addict, so you don't quit. I said, I bet you whatever you do, you're really good at. He goes, I am. I said, what are you good at? He goes, guitar. I said, cool. He goes, can I play for you? I was like, sure. So I handed him my guitar, and he goes, no, can I play for you? I was like, oh, you want to be in my band? And he goes, yes. I said, show me you can play. And he starts ripping on my guitar, and incredible. And I said, he was from Edmonton. I said, next time we're in Edmonton, learn my songs, and you can come on the stage with us. He stayed on our bus for 2.5 years, and he had some struggles with his mental health and everything, for sure. But during our show, about halfway through, we would show a video of him on the screens, and you couldn't really make out his face. It was smoky. And he would say, I was born bipolar. Growing up, I had autism, so that was tough. And teachers never believed in me and everything like that. And then, and the video would end. And then I'd say to everyone in the room, I said, have any of you ever seen that guy before? The crowd's like, no. I'm like, yeah, you have. He's my guitar player.
There you go.
Yeah, and the crowd would be, and then there'd be a line of young people that would want to talk to him, not me. Kids that have autism, kids that were bipolar.
Well, they can relate now.
Totally. But if I would have started the show, hey, before we start, wanted to know this guy beside me, the guitar player, he has autism, he's bipolar, he was addicted to crack and cocaine. Everybody would look at him, and they would have looked at him differently.
Yeah,
but because they just watched him performing for a half hour,
and down,
he's a rock star,
yeah.
right? So, yeah, and then he bought me this after that 2 years. He said, for me and the band, he goes, thank you for the time that you invested in me. It's an old pocket watch. So, and now he goes around telling his story. And yeah, it's, again, I think we're losing some of the most gifted people, and I get excited. Like, everywhere we go, we're just meeting these people, and we get to tell stories. And that's why I love being here with the opportunity to talk to you today.
Well, thank you for coming, man. I mean, I'd like to speak and learn more stories, life-changing stories, and your work is really great. You've channeled your energy to something good, and people are hearing it, changing their perspective, how they look at life. Yeah. And now they have finally do you have 927, you said, notes?
979.
979. So those are the notes you have with you. Those are the actual people who change their mind from doing something devastating, right?
Well, look at yourself. So, did your dad have a podcast? Did your grandpa have a podcast?
No.
There's something about you where you're like, you and your partner here, you're like, we want to tell stories. We want to share something.
Yeah.
That was a desire of yours, right? And that's unique. That's creative. And some people, maybe it's not like me, but some people in family are like, just get a real job.
Yeah.
Just do it. But there's something in you like, no, I'm going to buy microphones and get the lights and the cameras.
And
we're going to do something because people need stories, right? Where did that come from? Where do you think? Because that's not in everyone.
Yeah, I think it came from meeting new people, talking to them, learning their stories, and then letting other people know that this is what's going on, and bringing good content, bringing good stories to people so they can get encouraged, they can learn something new. Yeah, you're totally right.
We're on the same team,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And you know, I look at life a lot differently than some people because of what I've been through. Because, you know, for a couple of years after the accident, I was really, especially after high school, like I lived in dorm and then I moved back home with my parents. And then that's when the darkness really set in because I'm like, no, I wasn't surrounded by friends. And, I had a lot of these injuries and like I could only do certain jobs, and so I was, I played sports. Now I wasn't supposed to go into a gym because the ball could hit me in the head. I didn't listen to any of those because I just wanted to be normal.
Yeah, live a
But
normal life, as said in the documentary. Yeah.
yeah, and you just want to be normal, and you're going through these things. You're not thinking about life, especially as a teenager. But now after what I've been through, I'm like, man, you get to a place where like I want to listen to every prompting in my heart. I want to, man, we have something in common. We're both breathing, and like for those 2 years after the accident, I was scared to fall asleep because every night I was having the same nightmare. And my nightmare was watching my funeral and no one showed up. No one cared that I lived or that I died because I never did anything for anyone but me. And that's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now it's like, I want to make every day count. Like when I lay down tonight, I want to be like, I hope I either learned something today or I taught something today. Like you did this because, I want people to hear stories. There are stories out there that people need. I think that's a desire that we all have. Like we toured with some of the biggest bands that like bands that I looked up to, rock stars, right? And you meet them backstage and some of them are just like empty.
Yeah.
And you think, what, you made it.
Mm.
And that's what I think Hollywood tells us to chase success. Like you get nice cars, get a big house, and if you're a musician and you're a rock star, you're famous, you got a big house,
You are rich and
you got
luxury
nice
lifestyle.
cars.
Yeah.
You think, and now it's coming out more and more, like where even famous people are saying this didn't fulfill anything in here. And I think it's because Hollywood teaches us to chase success, but there's one other step. And that's where you go from success to significance. Significance is when you're using your time, your day, or at least some part of your week or your month for somebody else, doing something significant for somebody else. I was, and it doesn't have to be difficult. Like I phoned a semi-driver. Like I met with this one young guy. He had tried to take his life a few times, and his parents asked if I could talk with him, and I'm like, sure. And I'm not a counselor, I try to connect people with counselors and stuff with what we do. But we sat down. He goes, "Yeah, I know you were supposed to talk to me." He goes, "But if I want to get high, my brain. If I want to cut myself, they're my arms. If I want to kill myself, it's my life. My parents should leave me alone. This is my life." I said, "Yeah, but I think there's something special about you." Again, I didn't look at him as cursed. I'm like, "I think there's something special about you, though." And he looks and he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Are you ever just at a red light? There's so many people around, but you just happen to notice somebody stands out to you. Does that ever happen to you?" He goes, "Actually, that happens all the time." I said, "Yeah, I think you have a gift." I'm like, "Let's go for a walk." So we started walking, busy streets. And he goes, "What are we doing?" I said, "I just want you to tell me if you notice anybody. Does anyone stand out to you on the streets?" He goes, "Well, it's really weird you're saying that." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because as soon as we got out here, I noticed that woman over there." I said, "The old woman with a walker?" He goes, "Yeah. When we got out here, I noticed her." I was like, "Cool. Let's go find out why." We start walking across the street. He goes, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to go find out why you noticed her."
Yeah.
And we walked up and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am. Is there anything we could help you with right now?" And she starts crying. She goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I've been standing here for half an hour." She goes, "My shoes are untied. I'm scared to take another step because I don't want to fall and break my other hip." She goes, "I just prayed that someone would come tie my shoes. Would you boy tie my shoes for me?" So I was like, "Perfect." So I tied one shoe, he tied the other, right? We stood up. She was so grateful. It was like we just bought her a house. And we walked away and he was like, "That was awesome." I'm like, "Yeah." And you saw it. He goes, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "Let me ask you this. Do you want to hurt yourself right now?" He goes, "Not really." Like, "Do you want to get high?" He's like, "No." Like, "Do you want to kill yourself?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "Why? Who are you focused on?" He's like, her. So let me guess, all those times when you're hurting yourself, cutting yourself, or you want to kill yourself, you're alone in your room, aren't you? And he goes, yeah. I said, I bet you every time that's going on, there's something trying to keep you in your room thinking about yourself because somebody outside needs their shoes tied. I'm like, get out. This life is more than just you. And that's the tying somebody's shoes. Like, you notice people on the street, walk up to them, say something, like I go to the hospital a lot because of all my injuries and surgeries and stuff. When I go to a hospital, no one's having a good day at the hospital.
Yeah.
So I could think about myself and be like, oh no, I'm here because I'm getting ready for another surgery or whatever, But I look around the room and I think, everyone in front of me is having a bad day. Let me talk to somebody. Do you know what I mean? And when you start doing those things, you realize, I don't know, I think in the West, we're so self-absorbed with ourselves. All we do is whatever is good for us, and we don't do anything for anyone else. That's not healthy. Some people, all they do is try to help other people. They don't do anything for themselves, which is also not healthy. But I think we live in a really self-absorbed world, and I think that's what we're lacking, is doing stuff for other people. I don't think the antidote, like the answer for depression or sadness, is happiness. I think it's purpose. Doing something where we feel like, yeah, I'm doing something that matters. I have a podcast, and maybe it's not reaching 1 million people right now, but maybe it's reaching maybe 10 people out there really need it there. Maybe there's 100, or maybe we could get to 1,000. And that's what I tell young musicians all the time. Look, when they say, do you have any, advice for a band? I always say, figure out why you're doing it.
Figure out your whys.
Your why.
First, yeah.
Yeah, you know it. You could walk up to any adult in the world and ask them, what do you do? Everyone knows. Ask them, why do you do it? Everybody stops. I'm not sure.
They question themselves, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to do what I did and, start a charity and just go. But once a year, or once a week, once a month, go do something for somebody else. Like one friend, he picked me up from the airport once. He's like, how was your flight? I'm like, oh, it's amazing. I talked with this guy. We started talking. I told him about, he asked about the names. I haven't even shared that part of it, but he asked about the story. So I'm telling him about all the suicide notes that we've collected and stuff. And my friend goes, I hate you. I was like, well, why? He goes, because, people like talk to you on a plane and they want to hear stories and you get to have these great conversations. People ask me, hey, what do you do? And I say, I'm an accountant. And the conversation's over. And they're like, I don't want to talk to you. That's boring, right? And I looked at him and I said, well, that's because nobody cares about what you do. He goes, thanks a lot. I said, nobody cares about what I do either. I hit metal strings with a plastic stick. I play guitar. No one cares. They care about why I'm doing it. And my friend, he's a generous guy. I said, next time somebody asks you what you do, start with your why. He goes, what? I said, try this next time, because this is true with him. Next time somebody says, oh, what do you do? Oh, you know what? I'm really passionate about the homeless people in our city.
That just changed the whole story.
Yeah, because there's this many homeless people and this many people go without meals. And there's this soup kitchen for homeless people. And they feed this many people every year, every week, or every month. They do this so once a week or once a month, me and my family go. This is all stuff he does. We go volunteer at that soup kitchen and we help, serve lunch to people. And I said, and then, it takes this much money to do it. And I'm really good with numbers. So I'm an accountant, and that's how I'm able to donate money to this thing. That sounds like that's because you start with your why instead of your what. What do you do? I have a podcast. It's cooler than some jobs. What do you do? I'm really passionate about stories. I think stories could change somebody's life. And because of that, I started a podcast. That's what I'm doing. It's like, that's when you know your why.
It totally changes the whole perspective. Yeah. You're basically telling your whys, and then somebody who's listening is, understanding it better, that why you are doing it and why it is so purposeful. You also told that some of the big artists, at some point backstage, they feel empty, they don't have purpose. Do you think it's also because at some point they cared too much about chasing those numbers and those streams, but they actually forgot to you know chase why they were doing it, as you said.
Yeah.
You know, I
And
mean,
yeah, sometimes you forget why
mm,
you did it in the first. And sometimes you started off, you just wanted to be famous. You wanted to make money. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
always tell young bands, is like, if that's your why, like, it's a long time before you sign autographs, before you're famous. And if you're doing it for money, it's a long time, if ever, that you make money playing music. But if you know your why, if we play a show, even if there's 4 people, we could impact those 4 people with our music, and
mm,
if you figure out your why. But so I think some people from the beginning, their why is, I want to be rich and famous. And then you get rich and famous, and then you're like, oh, that was supposed to fill a void in my heart.
yeah. 'Cause a lot of people who are like ultra rich, all they once they're ultra rich, they say that once you're ultra rich, it's just some number.
Yeah.
Because you bought already what you need. You wanted to have a big house, you have a big house now, a luxury car, or 3 4 5 10 cars, right? And you can buy now best schooling for your kids, right? Best vacation or whatever. But now it's just a number because you have got what you want, and now what's next now?
Yeah,
That's why
totally.
you feel empty now.
Yeah. Like my mom was born and raised in Mexico, and my dad's from Belize, like south of Mexico. And they came to Canada like so many, and wanted to, live the Canadian or the American dream and all that stuff. And most of my dad's family still live in Belize. And last time I went there, I just wanted to relax. So I went there for 3 weeks, but I only told one of my cousins I was coming. So I was like, I don't want to make a big deal of this. I want to relax.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone found out I was there. And the first day there was a party. There's 50 people, and let's have a party. Cool. Next day there's 40 people, and let's go to the ocean. Okay. Next day there's 50 people. Let's go tubing down the river. And after about 8 days, I was like, guys,
You need to stop.
we don't have to do something every
Yeah.
day. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, don't you have jobs?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. I said, what did you tell your bosses?
Mm.
We told them our family's here. I said, and they were okay with that? I said, yeah. I'm like, huh. And then 6 months later, my cousin came to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
surprised us. He's like, hey, Rob, I'm in Canada. I'm like, oh, cool. I can meet you for coffee next Thursday at 8:45,
Oh my
right? And he
God.
goes, no, I want to like hang out with you for a few weeks.
Mm.
I was like, oh yeah, that's not how we do things in Canada. I can't just say, hey, my family's here, like they did
Yeah.
in Belize, right? But I was like, but our houses are nicer and our
Mm.
cars are shinier. And then I think to myself, yeah, we got more stuff, but family's not as important. Our time, we're busy. We don't have time. And I think, guess what? Their struggles with their mental health aren't as bad down in Belize as they are here, and we get so busy. And one of my mentors, he said he got really rich, and one day he realized he was obsessed with what he said is the most evil 4-letter word, more.
Mm.
You get, it's the never ending. You want more, you want another
Some people
car.
say it's a disease.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, because you'd think, like, we do a lot of work, in Indigenous communities, and the suicide rates on Indigenous communities they're big, but they're not in some countries like in Africa. So it's not just because you don't have money, because otherwise you'd see that there. But I think, and we've worked with a lot of Indigenous people, and some of the chiefs had a ceremony. They gave me my spirit name. They call me Bear Chief, which is why I tattooed that on my hand,
Mm.
And yeah, I think because they live so close to major cities, so they're so close, but they're so far away, they can see on their phones how people are living just a few hours away. And it's like, man, we're so close, but we're so far away.
Yeah.
Because, we did a show on a reserve that was 4 hours from a major city in Canada. So close, right? Normally, when we do a show on a reserve, me and my band, my bassist, she's Indigenous, but normally we're the only non-Indigenous people in the room. But I looked in the audience, and there were 2 black nuns in the audience. I was like, I've never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up to them after the show, and I said, can I ask where you're from? They said, we're from Africa. I said, what are you doing here? They said, our church in Africa heard about the issues on the reserves in Canada. So they raised money to move them here and try to help and serve the kids that don't have food and different things here in Canada. And I was like, we send our money to Africa, which is fine if that's what you feel called in your heart to do. Sorry, that was probably loud. But we send our money to Africa. But they're hearing about the issues in Canada. And how many of us are looking what's going on in our own backyard? You know, and I thought, and the saddest part of that story is they were more surprised to see us there than I was surprised to see them. They said, we've been here for a long time. You're the first people that we've seen come to help these kids. So they're living there, helping these kids, and they were surprised to see us there. And so you know, our drinking water here in Winnipeg comes from a reserve just a little ways away. There's a dam built there. Do you know they have to drive to Winnipeg to buy the water that we get from them? So there's a dam there, and there's water. That's where Winnipeg gets our drinking water.
It's crazy.
They have to drive to Winnipeg to buy water and drive
because they can't get it from there.
The system is just messed up. And until you go and meet with these people, you see this. And when people ask me where the issues are the worst for young people, the worst are the issues, and not all reserves and stuff, not all Indigenous people. I love working with Indigenous people because here we'll talk about mental health a little bit, physical health. We don't talk about spiritual health in Canada, which I don't like. Indigenous people, a drumbeat is spiritual, so that's a wide open door, right? But I always say the second biggest issue for young people is it's Indigenous first, and the second biggest issue are the wealthiest schools, because you know you're not just stealing $5 off your parents' dresser for some weed or something. You have your own car. You're 16. You have your own car. You have your own credit card.
More privileges.
And you have the pressures of your parents are rich, so you better get good grades and you better have your own success and all that stuff. Maybe your parents are busy. And so even gangs that have infiltrated every school, they want to focus on the rich schools because that's where they can get most money selling drugs and stuff.
Yeah, I talked to the guy who's stood up to be a mayor for the city, right? And he was telling about all the issues for as in drugs and everything. I mean, in schools, it's so normal now. And if we talk about drugs or things, those are things you can see normal on the streets, like these cannabis and vapes. It's so normal with the kids. The other day, I was looking at this Instagram post where the school management, they found the toilets clogged up. Guess why? Because of these vapes.
Oh, wow.
These kids are throwing these vapes and hiding them in these, toilet.
Sure.
And they're getting clogged up now, and because
when you do shows in prisons, nobody woke up one day and said, I want to be in a gang.
Yeah.
Usually or often, I shouldn't say usually, but often it's like you're going to a drug dealer to get some weed or whatever, and the drug dealer, you can have it for free today. Oh, but can you just go deliver this to Stephanie at locker 18 during lunch hour? Oh, so they go deliver some drugs, and then they got theirs for free that week.
Yeah.
And then the next week they say, okay, now make this delivery and this delivery and this. What do you mean? Oh, you're in our gang now. I didn't want to be in a gang. Oh, you are now.
Yeah, you don't have
you
any
better
option.
not mess with us. But I'll tell you, everyone, we already talked about this, everybody wants purpose, right? Everyone wants belonging. We want to belong to something. We want to have purpose, and gangs have figured that out. When you join a gang, you have belonging.
You feel that
you're in a group. You have purpose. It might be bad purpose, but You feel like you're a part of something, you know? Gangs have figured that stuff out. Gangs know when there's teenagers on a flight landing in Canada, refugees, and they're waiting to welcome them. You know, we as a society could learn a lot from gangs.
Yeah, we can learn how to like get people entitled them with them, right? Even though they know it can turn worse, but
Yeah,
still people would love to, you know.
yeah. Like with, you know, youth groups could figure that stuff. Counselors should be, hey, there's some new refugees coming to town. How do we welcome them? Churches could do that. You know, it's like, be waiting for these kids. Like, learn, put in some effort, find out where are these kids hurting. You know, like, start programs. You know, like, you saw me walking here. I'm 6'5". I'm covered in tattoos, right? I don't look like a very approachable person, but we do our shows, and because I'm willing to tell my story, I've got 12-year-old kids walking up to me and sharing their story with me. Not because I look approachable, it's because they're looking for somebody that's
To
willing
talk
to be
to.
vulnerable. And I like, actually, part of the reason I have tattoos and a beard and a mohawk, I want to show young guys that you can be tough and edgy on the outside and still be compassionate and full of grace on the inside. You know, they need to see that. If I can get to that guy at the back of the room, like, prison shows you meet some tough guys, you know, but once you hear their stories, you're like, wow. You know, I met a guy that murdered his parents. That's a bad headline.
A lot of people, a lot of kids or youngsters, sorry, sometimes they want somebody just to hear them, right? Just to get heard or hear their story and how they feel. Maybe
Yeah.
that can make them feel better, and that can
Yeah.
change their perspective, how they look at things now.
Yeah, you want to be heard, you want to be felt. We want to make a difference. It's in us. Sometimes we don't have examples of how to do that, you know. And like we did our one school, they came to our show, right? And the students went back to school, and they were like so moved, like, we should do something as a class, you know, like, let's not just say that was great. And think about ourselves. Let's do something for the community. We've seen schools do incredible things. One school, you know what they did? We found out about this because we read it in the paper. After our show, the class went to the teachers and stuff, and they said, we want to do something significant. And they asked, can we use a school bus every lunch hour? And the teacher said, why? And what they did was every lunch hour for a month, they took the school bus and they went and knocked on people's doors, and they said, do you have any winter clothing that you don't use anymore? And they're like, yeah. And people started giving them all this winter clothing that was in their storage and stuff that they don't use anymore. They filled the whole school bus with used winter clothing. And then those students went and they handed out all that winter clothing to all the homeless people in their city.
That's so generous.
And man, if you can give young people a taste of significance early in their life, like I did calling that semi-driver, then all of a sudden you're like, I want more of that.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the saddest things I think for young people is we always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not what do you want to be now?
Yeah.
Or there's purpose for you today. It's like, when you grow up, what do you want to be? Instead of going, what are you going to do today? How could you make today count? You know, do you see somebody sitting alone in the hallway that doesn't have any friends? Ask them to join you for lunch. You go tie somebody's shoes that's standing with a walker. You know, do these little things. And when you get a taste of that, and I think we live right now in a society where I think a lot of young people are starving. They realize there's got to be more than this.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, few things I can think about is this social media. First of all, is just changing the whole perspective, how we look at things, and then everything. I mean, everything is getting expensive. Everybody's just working to make that living, but you don't get enough time to think about your purpose, your whys. You're so busy, and then these drugs on streets, they are so normalized now.
Yeah.
Anybody and everybody can get access so easily. You just need to know that one person who can help you with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Well, and the scary thing about drugs right now is because weed is now legalized in Canada, now all the gangs that used to sell weed are now like, shoot, how do we compete with all these big stores that aren't just growing it illegally in a basement somewhere? They've got factories making this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we, that was a big money source for gangs. So like, how do we do this? So now they have to put a little something on top of that weed so that you give it out for free. It'd be like, hey, try my weed. And somebody goes, whoa,
Yeah.
that was incredible. That's way better than the weed I get at the store downtown. And you don't realize that that stuff is laced with, who knows, fentanyl.
Anything, yeah.
Yeah,
could be
and all of a
anything.
sudden, and that's why getting it legalized was like that's one of the dangers of it, But yeah, and then you look at alcohol too. That's so normalized. The guy Tom Holland that plays Spider-Man. He said once, like he struggled a lot with alcohol, and then he said, if somebody came up and said, imagine alcohol didn't exist, and somebody walked up and said, hey, we've got this new drink. It's gonna make some people fun, but it's gonna make some people violent. Some people might get killed. You never know. But hey, should we introduce this new beverage? Everybody would be like, no,
yeah.
keep that away from us.
Yeah.
But because it's been around, it's so normalized. Like, you still, like, if you're 16 and you want weed, you're still getting it. You're not old enough to go buy it, so you're finding ways to get it, which is illegal and stuff like that. But alcohol is so normalized. I'll take it further that when I listened to what Tom Holland said, if alcohol didn't exist and they said, we're going to introduce this new drink, and yeah, some people are going to have fun while doing it, but some people are going to get violent.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of murders when people are drinking. There's drinking and driving. There's going to be so many people that are killed. People are their livers are going to be damaged by this. I talked with a girl a couple weeks ago, her grandpa has alcohol-induced dementia. I was like, whoa, like just from drinking for all the years, how many divorces have happened because of alcohol? How many families have broken up? If you listed all that stuff and then said, had a vote,
Yeah. Just
should
because
we
of
introduce
alcohol.
this?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll come to your story again, Rob. You have tattoos on your arms, right? Of the names of the kids who handed you the letters. Would you mind showing us the tattoos?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please,
Yeah. For those that don't know the story, a lot of young people that handed me the suicide notes or razor blades from kids that are cutting. I saw a lot of them as they got older. They started tattooing the words of our songs on their arms where they used to cut themselves and stuff. So it was the reason I was like, man, that meant so much to me that they would tattoo one of my songs on their arms.
Because this related so much with it.
So I wanted to, how do I repay that? So what you're talking about is I took all the signatures and the names from the bottom of all the notes that we were given, and I tattooed all those signatures and names on my arms. And I did it because I remember what it feels like when you have those thoughts. You feel like you're the only ones. And I want to be able to show people. In every show I do, I say, hey, if you're having those thoughts, these are all signatures of young people just like us that had those thoughts in their head.
So do you have them draw and then get it tattooed, or?
So a lot of the notes are written. It's like, and most of them start with the words are, Mom, Dad, if you're reading this, I'm sorry, but I couldn't do this anymore. And then at the end, they usually sign their name.
And then
so I took the names off the bottoms, and some of them just have their name on top, or whatever. So some of them are the actual signatures. Some of them are just the names that I saw. But this is definitely the handwriting of a lot of them. And, almost every show that we do, wherever we are in Canada, a lot of these people, these kids, they work with us, So every show, I'd be like, oh, one of the names on my arm, Cheyenne, she's here right now.
How many are these? I mean,
I don't know exactly. I have long arms, so there's probably 300-400 maybe. My arms are full. I always say at every show, I'm not going to do any more tattoos.
Okay.
I don't want everyone to want, hey, I want my name on your arm. Here's my name.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be anybody's reason. So when I did it, I just filled up the arms. But yeah, it's I just like being able to show people, like I said at the beginning of this, I wanted to show people, look, these are all signatures of people that are still here, because young people need to see that not every story ends in a tragedy. We can learn from tragedy, but we have to balance that. And that gets me back to what we started at the beginning of this podcast. People say everything happens for a reason. And I needed an antidote for that. And one day I realized this, and I actually just did a TED talk about this, and this is what I realized. Bad things, like we're all going to go through bad days. We're all going to see something terrible. Bad things don't happen for a reason. Bad things happen with potential. Good and bad potential. So my accident had the potential to leave me angry, bitter, and suicidal for the rest of my life, for all the pain that I'm still in and everything I went through. I could still be sitting home angry about that. But there's also the potential that I could take my story and do something with it. You know, one person gets stage 4 cancer. And, man, they change their diet. You know, they realize, man, I've got a limited time left. Or even stage 1 cancer.
Yeah.
It's like, man, all of a sudden you go like, I've never really thought about how precious life is. And they're like, yeah, maybe they change their diet. Maybe they make every conversation, you know, they make sure everyone around them, you know, knows how much they love them. Like they just make every day count. But the next person gets cancer. It's like, why me? And you don't know why this is happening to you. You start drinking, you start doing drugs, you isolate yourself, and you get angry and stuff. So there's the potential for this. And there's the potential for this. So I always say, like, you're going to go through something tough in your life. Sometimes it's just because you were going too fast on an icy road.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with it. So like a tragedy has the potential to tear apart a person. It has the potential to tear apart a marriage, a family, a school, a city, a province, a country. But tragedy also has the potential to bring people together.
Yeah.
You see both. So like I was on one interview and the guy said, "Well, Rob, it's good that you were hit by a semi-truck." I was like, "No, it's not good to get hit by a semi." He goes, "But look what you've done with it."
Yeah.
I said, "The semi didn't make me do this." He goes, "But if you could go back in time, you'd do it all over again, wouldn't you?" Nope. I wouldn't go back and get hit by a semi again. Could I think and believe the way I do right now without that accident? Absolutely. If I thought everyone had to have their own tragedy and hit rock bottom to learn, why would I do this tour?
Yeah.
I'd stop my tour, sell all of my guitars, and say, like, you have to figure it out by yourself. No, we can learn from each other. We can learn from the mistakes our parents have made, our brothers and sisters. Be like, learn from each other, learn from the stories. That's why you have a podcast. We can tell stories. People are going to listen to this that I may have never met before, but because they're friends of yours or they found your channel, they're going to hear this. And then, so if you get to a bad day and you look at your wife, your husband, you look at your family, your friends, and go, this has the potential to tear us apart, but this has the potential to bring us together. We have to decide. You know, even to that person that gets cancer, decides to turn their life around, and maybe they survive cancer and they're like, but they have just a different outlook on life. Some people are like, oh, I'm kind of grateful I had that. Okay, so do you want your daughter to get cancer? No, I wouldn't want that. So it's like, what are we going to do with our tough days? So when you get to that tough day, realize this has the potential to tear me apart. It has the potential to tear us apart. This has the potential to bring us together. What are we going to pick? What are we going to decide?
100%. You said it very well. Yeah. It's all about the perspective you have, or it changes after a while, after that incident or accident that made you change your perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you said something very wonderful. The same guy who's got cancer, stage 4, is looking at life, trying to tell everybody how much he loves, right? He's trying to do things differently the way he used to do it before, because he never felt how precious life was.
Yeah.
Now, because you know that he's got very limited time, now he's trying to live that moment, try to enjoy that dinner, try to spend more time and make that time a quality time spending with whosoever. So yeah, it's about perspective that changes.
Yeah. And there's perspective on so many things. Like,
Yeah.
I meet so many young people that, we hear all the cliches, like everything happens for a reason, or people say like, let's say you've lost somebody, like my dad died, and people would talk, oh, don't worry, the pain will go away. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then the pain didn't go away. And they're like, you get over this. And then I didn't get over it. And I'm like, uh-oh, there's something wrong with me because the pain's not going away.
Yeah. Maybe I'm
And
thinking
I'm not
too
getting
much
over
or
it.
something. Yeah.
But it's like, that pain's not going to go away.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't go away because I'm never going to forget if the pain goes away, that means I forgot my dad.
Yeah.
So I miss him. That's painful. And so I always say, like, those cliches, everything happens for a reason. Or don't worry, the pain will go away. That pain, if you lost your dad, your mom, your son, your daughter, your cousin, a friend that's close to you, that pain's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and you think that would be sad news, but it makes people go like, okay, so it's okay that the pain hasn't left? Yeah. It would be weird if the pain left.
Yeah.
But I always say, like, but if you wake up in the morning looking for pain, you'll find it.
Yeah.
But if you get up in the morning looking for strength, looking for hope, looking for help, you can find that too. But sometimes that's a daily decision. So it's like, what are you looking for? So all these cliches, everything happens for a reason. Oh, the pain will go away. It's like, wow, we say those things with great intentions, but when those things don't happen, it's like, the pain didn't go away. Uh-oh, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. Your dad died.
I get it. Yeah, I forgot the name of the person. Somebody famous said it that when you lose somebody, in fact, that same person who said it lost his brother, I believe, and he said that I didn't forget that my brother died, but I now learned how to live with it. But it doesn't mean I don't miss him or I don't love him. I miss him every single day when I wake up. But life has to go on.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't love him anymore and he's not in my life, but I love him. I miss him every day. Yeah, I remember that incident, that particular day when he left us. But it doesn't mean that, as you said, I don't feel the pain now. No, that's not the case. It's just I learned how to live with it now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's...
And I won't be same.
Yeah.
He said, yeah.
And people just feel the amount of time is like, so it's okay that my mom died 5 years ago. It's okay that it's still hurt. That's okay.
Yeah, it's totally
And
fine.
it's okay to cry. Really? Yeah, I'm 6'5", covered in tattoos. I cry all the time. I think tears are like poison. You're supposed to flush them out sometimes. Like, I think, we're, especially as guys, we suck it up way too often. It's like, don't want to express yourself. And that's not how we're designed.
That's right, Rob. That's right. Well, I would say that'll be a great ending to this podcast. If there's anything you want to add before we,
No, I think I love what you're doing. I think it's incredible that you, not a shot to anyone that does have notes and questions, but I think it's incredible to have a conversation. I love your heart. What you guys are doing here is incredible, and I hope everybody, step away and go like, man, yeah, I want to do something, and maybe I don't have to start my own charity, but maybe I could phone somebody today. That's my biggest thing is if you feel something in your heart, say, oh, I wonder how they're doing. Ask.
listen to it.
Maybe there's a reason that you're thinking about that person today.
Well, thank you for teaching us that, Rob.
Perfect.
I'm happy to do this podcast with you.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you. Thank you
Cheers.
for coming today.
Cheers.